When we resist change, it's called suffering. But when we can completely let go and not struggle against it, when we can embrace the groundlessness of our situation and listen into its dynamic quality, that's called enlightenment. With great zeal of pride and privilege, I, Sindhu Panika, welcome you all to this first edition of Nahar Jito Bookathon in association with Raisoni Foundation, where we dive deep into the world of literature and creativity. People have always tried to find meaning in everything, especially in life itself. The ultimate challenge is more about trying to enjoy life as it is, to live life to the fullest. A person who explored a different life journey and make all attempts to help others in the society who travel the same journey with his extraordinary support is what describes our guest for today. A great persona, ladies and gentlemen. We are glad to have with us Mr. Debashis, a fabulous author of the book I Have Autism and I Like to Play Tennis. The book that offers a window into a different world through the story of his son Noel and have touched lives of many to change the restrictive and defeatist attitudes associated with autism. Professionally an MBA, he is a management and marketing strategy consultant from India with clients across the world. The parenting journey, as documented in this book, is likely to be a huge source of comfort to parents in similar situations and definitely an eye-opener to people who know little about autism. The most impressive part that I loved in this book are the examples of how he learned so much about the gap between his son's expectations and his expectation and his son's need, especially when it came to sports, where Noel's focus was only on enjoying himself, where his dad was more towards seeing his son winning as all father does. For the readers, Noel was the winner, as he did not mind playing bad tennis. But for some readers like me, the dad is also the winner who could author a book with such neutralized emotion and making the readers understand the importance of acceptance, mental strength, and a peak level of empathy. We welcome you, sir, and thank you for having accepted our invitation and being with us today. We are deeply honored.
Namaste, Sindhu Panikar, madam, and my best wishes to Nahar Jito Bookathon 2024. It's the first edition, I'm told, and I'm sure it is going to be a mind-expanding experience for most of the viewers. Yes, we can begin our conversation.
With pleasure, sir. So before we take the audience through your journey of writing this memo, I would like to hear from you on the title of the book, I Have Autism and I Like to Play Bad Tennis, which is quite intriguing. How and what led to this title?
Well, these are words of my son Noel, and he was more interested in labeling his tennis play as bad tennis because this was actually, if you think about it, was his pushback to constantly being told that you have to be good at tennis, studies, good behavior, you have to be good at swimming, cycling, so on and so forth. And it is quite representative of, today's parents' mentality, where we unknowingly put a lot of pressure on our child to come out first, to do exceptionally well compared to others. They're always in a race. And somehow, I don't think that allows that the child to develop their own potential, their own personality, once we are placing them under such pressure. So that's the larger significance. But yes, Noel loved to play bad tennis. Not that he didn't like to play bad tennis. He liked it very much. He enjoyed the game. He loved to learn the game, improve the game, but always used to tell me, Dad, don't put pressure on me to play very well and compete with others and win. So yes, that's the significance of the title.
That was taking us to a truly inspiring dwell right now. We would also like to hear your experience right from the time of book being launched in Oral City Literature Festival till now, where you've been touching the lives of many. How has been your journey so far?
Well, when my book was published by Westland Books, first it was national, then it went to international. We got excellent reviews from the mainstream media, the Hindu, the Telegraph, Times of India, Indian Express, Tribune, and many other online platforms like moneycontrol.com, Quint, The Print, and so on and so forth. So it was unusual because I had written a book which is a fairly niche sort of book, and I did not expect that it would get so much of accolades. And so that led to me being invited to various, lit festivals, which start, let's say, from September, October, November. I was in at the Orange City Festival, book festival, sorry, literature festival held in Nagpur. I was in Hyderabad. I went to Kolkata Book Fest, and so on and so forth. And of course, in February this year, I was at Jaipur Lit Fest. They had selected my book, and we had a separate, session, about my book and the subject of disability. So it has been very exciting on as an author. Yes, the I did not expect the kind the kind and of reach that it has already acquired in the span of 1 year. The other thing that has happened, which was unexpected, that a lot of new avenues opened up for me to engage in the task of building awareness, sensitivity, understanding of autism. So in the month of autism awareness, which is in April, it's a year marked by the UN Charter. So the entire month is on efforts of raising awareness and consciousness and sensitivity. So I was invited by schools in Delhi, Gurgaon, Jaipur, many others, and then by corporates also. You must be aware about the diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives which a lot of large corporates, especially in the tech sector, have taken up, and they are moving towards employment of autistic young people. So they had arranged for talks for their employees across different subjects pertaining to autism. So yes, I have been doing that as well, and I'm now a regular speaker on the subject at various forums. Yes, so that's been the journey, and I think what I feel good about is that I've been able to make my contribution towards the cause. I've been able to help a lot of parents who are now online connected with me. I guide them. They discuss difficult situations with me online, and I've been able to give them solutions. So yes, so there is a sense of accomplishment, a sort of deep satisfaction.
So we wish that your contributions to this cause keep going forward. Many more which can create a great impact in the society. You have mentioned that in the book, even in some of your interviews, where there were no access to computers and the contents that are available right now, the guidance that were given right now. But
Yes.
now that people have Mr. Debashis Paul with them, so I think that's the best part that we could hear. Well, getting now into the memoir, Mr. Paul, how did you come up with the idea of using music and sports like tennis to teach Noel? Can we get to have some examples where these led to a significant breakthroughs in his learning?
See, the neurodiverse child, and I'm talking about people who are, let's say, moderately or severely in a situation where they have difficulties in learning through the conventional system, our conventional school system. So you cannot restrict the teaching to only the classroom. You will have to go beyond that. In fact, I feel that it is also relevant for the neurotypical children also, and it enhances their learning and engagement in a very, very positive way. So I thought of music first. Let's talk about music. Noel had, showed early signs of being interested in music, any melody, any instrument, musical instrument being played. So started using music to develop his language skills, vocabulary, labeling emotions, to be able to communicate. And as we moved forward, he was able to communicate through song lyrics, which actually conveyed exactly what he was feeling or whatever he wanted. Or when there was a bit of a bump when he was on the cycle, one day, he banged into somebody who was very recklessly, moving in front of him. And then he said, "Hey bhai, zara dekh ke chalo, aage bhi nahi, daye bhi," etc. So I'm saying there was there was lightness which could come into various situations, and there was obviously a desire to experiment with different genres of music. So he started responding to jazz on one hand and also to old melodies of Bollywood. So there was a repertoire that he was building up, and that stimulated his, social skills as well as his expression, tremendously. So I thought that it could not have been achieved through a music teacher in a school setup, where there is a group of kids and there is a certain, rigor in the way the music is taught in a school. So we have to think of music in a much wider way, is my point. It can be for a neurodiverse child, and it has to be constantly pursued even at home. And also the school should pick up that and allow him, this avenue of expressing himself through music. Then labeling of emotions, for example, for the autistic person, he may not be able to recognize emotions or the social nuances of, interaction. So all of that could be taught through music. And it was, yes, so I would consider it a breakthrough. The second one thing is about sports. Again, if we think of sports only as a physical activity, as a team activity, like it is done typically in schools, but for the neurodiverse child, you have to think of it very differently, because sports allows, the stimulation of the motor coordination system of the body, and that in any case is a deficit area for many of the children on the autism spectrum. So it gives you a tremendous amount of stimulation, improvements you can clearly see, once you begin to bring the child in the play field and begin to put him into a discipline of a particular sports. So it could be roller skating, it could be swimming. In Noel's case, tennis was his main event. And then initially that's what is one benefit. And as we go along, communication, again, language communication is a challenging area for many autistic kids, and parents, have great difficulty in this area. So there again, in sports, as he feels uninhibited, he can express himself better. You can engage him into structured, some kind of structure where he can improve his speech and communication, including others as he grows up. So it is not something which is done one-off. It has to be persistently done. Maybe started at the age of 6 and on to till your 20s. That period is tremendous, and also the child is much more receptive to learning when it is in the sports environment. So that's, I would say, is this is how we should think about it, about special education for our neurodiverse children.
So, being positive and being persistent, a combination of these two is always a challenge. What strategies did you use to maintain a positive mindset in the face of adversity, and how other parents can cultivate this positivity in their own lives?
See, first and foremost, when you have a diagnosis hurled at you by the doctor, it's a very, very difficult situation. It's very painful. You have no clue how it is going to be, how you'll check. You're suddenly, entering a zone which you are completely unfamiliar with, as to how you should handle the child, how will he develop, what is it that will happen when it comes to school, and so on and so forth. So there is always this what I call a spiral of negative thoughts which will come upon you. And this is famously called by psychologists the denial state, that this cannot be true, that it is happening to me. And why is it me? Why should it happen to my child? Those kind of thoughts, which again are very, very common. Almost every parent goes through that denial state. The thing is, you will have to make that extra effort on coming out of that spiral, because there is a lot of negativity that surrounds your whole attitude towards your child. And it doesn't it once you begin to accept the situation, once you begin to dialogue with your own self and look at the child's strengths, look at the joy the child is bringing, then what happens is all the energies that were getting sort of wasted in your negativity is now available to you to contribute positively to the child. So this is what I would say: acceptance of the situation or any adverse situation. Acceptance of that situation is very important. And when I say acceptance, some people might say that, oh, it's very easy to say it, but very hard to do. It's not really that, because somehow each of us have a latent strength of accepting adversity, and we have to work on it to bring it up so that we are strengthened, we feel encouraged to go forward with positive energy. And what the next level of thing that will happen is, once there is wholehearted acceptance, it will release some kind of energy in you to think so out of the box, so creatively, and with such perseverance, that it's an amazing a kind of force that will direct you then, and you can do tremendously well for the child, keeping him at the center of everything. And so that is what is needed to transform yourself from in an adverse situation. Yeah.
So, I'm sure when you come up with these ideas and when you have experience, you have implemented those in life. The concept of celebrating those micro successes on what Noel did. So, how did recognizing and celebrating the small victories throughout the happening contributed to Noel's overall growth and development?
Yeah, celebrating micro successes is what you're asking, right?
Yes.
So that is usual. It happens in every home when the child meets, when the child is really small, a toddler, meets the various milestones. That happens. There's joy the parents have, grandparents, and immediately family members. But that's not what I'm talking about when I say micro successes. For example, when Noel, by the age of 10, learned to get the grip right on his tennis racket. Okay, it takes a long time for the autistic child, because he has neurological difficulties, so he can't he cannot calibrate his grip, the power of the grip or the strength, and to sustain it, whether you're playing a forehand or a backhand. For me, that was a huge success. Okay, and celebration means you have to express that to the child, he should feel a sense of achievement. And then you will have to give him some kind of a reward by showing your success, and you will have to vocalize your reward. You can be a great player, Noel. You can be a great player. See how well you're gripping. How you've achieved. So that constant encouragement has to be given to the child. You have to go overboard. When I say celebrating micro success, you have to go really overboard and allow that moment to be completely converted into a very positive thing for the child. And you will see that it will give him a far greater enthusiasm to work the next time around. I mean, this is something which, of course, all of us know, but we are unable to practice it. And it is not just practice when the situation happens. It is an all-pervasive attitude that you have to develop.
True.
For example, when Noel learned how to cut his nails, again, it's a neurological challenge for the child. Okay, so he could cut his nails on his own with a nail cutter. For us, it was day to celebrate. Or later, when he become later in his adolescence, when he could use a shaver, electric shaver, because the whizzing sound of the shaver was very disturbing for him. And they have, as you know, ultra sensitivity towards sound, taste, touch, so on and so forth. So he got around over that, and he could use the shaver. So these were successes, So the conventional understanding of success has to be overturned, and it has to become a part of your attitude, the way you conduct yourself at home as a parent. Yeah.
Can you share us one situation where you could sense that in the eyes of Noel when you have celebrated that Noel you have done? One situation so that you felt like, yes, my son is there.
For example, he used to be good. He used to enjoy swimming. Again, he was not wanting to be in competition when he become a fairly good swimmer. I wanted to push him harder and make him a athlete and compete at that level, to reach that level. So he would not want to swim fast, and he used to love singing while he was swimming.
Oh.
And he had a huge attraction for old Bollywood songs, and those were slow numbers, and he used to like, almost in rhythm, he would do his limbs. Yeah. And he loved it. And singing while swimming was like the greatest joy for him. Now, in this scenario, I'm telling him, listen, you have to run, you have to race in a competition, you have to swim really fast, you have to move fast. So that became a bit of difficulty there. How do I get him to swim fast? But then I had this idea of saying him, he was obsessed with cars, and like a lot of boys, on the spectrum, they get very drawn to cars and transport modes. So I started telling him that, see, imagine you are a car, and now you have to move like a car. So that idea worked, so it was completely out of the box idea, and then he started swimming very fast, so fast that he became, he was winning all the competitions.
The father knew the right door.
Yeah. So if it was difficult for me to say, you have to swim fast to win the race. So whenever he used to go into swimming competitions in Delhi, I used to tell him, whisper in his ears, you have to go fast as a car. And that whisper worked. And he used to win.
To the dad there.
Yeah, so he used to win medals at swimming, and he was also a participant at the Special Olympics in Bombay. We went for that. So there's a whole story there, which is there in my book, which readers should go through and will really find it resonating with what I'm saying. That of using out of the box ideas, to deal with difficult situations.
Your book is described as valuable even for those who are not connected to autism field. So, what universal lessons and insights can readers from all walks of life can gain from your experiences?
First and foremost is you have to respect the child. What we do in typical parenting is that we try to impose our personalities, our preferences, our wants, our ambitions onto the child. Now, we don't even realize that we are actually putting a lot of pressure on him or her. And what happens is the individuality gets sort of clamped. We must allow the child to blossom by allowing him or her to think freely. Okay, so exposure is important. Providing the right encouragement, providing the right stimulation is important. But to impose your own thoughts, your own norms is an inhibitor for the child. So that's one thing. Second thing is that you have to always give a reason why something she or he cannot do. Even when they grow up, when they are teenagers, when they're trying to pull away from the mother and father's terrain, they will be experimenting things. They will be in the company of various kinds of other children with other kind of sense of values, and so you will have to give them a reason why. I often find that we don't give any reason. We just react, and we allow our temperament to completely take over. Even for a small child, I see when I'm traveling, the father or the mother get very frustrated with their constantly, the child is perhaps, whining and, wanting things, or, seeking attention, or sometimes not complying with whatever is required to be done, not going in a line, or breaking the, line and sort of going ahead when you're checking in the airport, for example, and so on and so forth. So I see parents react so sharply. And हम आपको इधर ही छोड़ के जाएंगे airport. Can you imagine how much fear is being induced to a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old child saying this? But they will also go to the other extreme, always giving them chocolates and various other, inducements all the time. Oh, आपको ये चाहिए, all the time pampering them. So this, two extremes that our Indian parents operate with, especially when the children are small, even when they're grown up, I see that, extreme behaviors, I think that needs to be moderated. That we have to reflect, what is it, how is the child going to perceive this, and, all the time, if you give inducements, it will always become like this. They think that this is the way you have to operate in this world. I have to receive something. Without that, I will not do something which is desirable, or, so you will have to temper yourself. You have to moderate the whole thing of how you conduct yourself with your children, because they are in their formative years, and how they're going to view the world, their sense of values, all of that is going to happen at home.
Everything starts from home.
Yes, and we can schools, of course, add, improve, also induce certain kind of behaviors and all of that. But parents have to be very conscious of this, how they conduct themselves. And I always say this, it's there in my opening pages of my book. What values you're going to carry through your life. For example, and I keep emphasizing this, is the kind of relationships you will have in your life. How you'll conduct yourself with your own partners in life actually stems from your own, the way you have been dealt with at home. Or the second thing is that how do you deal with adversity in life? You'll see extreme reactions a lot of youngsters have nowadays, right? Some things don't go their way. They get extremely upset, disproportionately upset, or saddened by this situation. And they lose all hope, and and it destroys their confidence. how do you prepare the child from the early years to deal with disappointments, to deal with failure, to deal with adversity? That's the value creation that happens at home. Parents have the responsibility of doing that.
I think parents should be trained on art of telling no to their children sometimes.
Yes, that's what you
That's I mean, we have been brought up in that aspect where we have heard both yes and a no. When it's required, it's a yes, and when that's not required, it's a complete no. But yes, as you rightly said, mm, just like how generation moves, the parents, the parenting style, everything moves on. Now everything is a yes with some no's in between. I think that is one major thing. I think parenting aspects, even when we find parents coming talking about the child, we somehow find that there's a lot of gap or there's a lot of scope in the parent themselves.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but parental guidance is necessary also. I'm not saying that everybody would know
No,
exactly,
yeah.
and nobody has done it's the when you're having your first child and all that, it's first time experience. So there is a lot of parental guidance required, and they should seek it out. And it's a very tough job,
Yes,
you know.
true.
But then
Very,
it is also the
very
most
easy to
rewarding.
be
What I always say is that it is the most rewarding job.
most rewarding. True.
Nothing can give you that sense of satisfaction, joy forever. It's there's nothing really, not in the material world. So that I firmly believe in, and that's why it is worth taking all the trouble of equipping yourself, doing the hard work, also accepting a lot of things which you may not be instantly liking or not according to you. So you should be open to the child having independent views which are different from yours, but then you have to go through reasoning. Ask him or her, what is the reason you think so? For that would always make the child doesn't feel that my parents are hostile towards me, or always taking a different point of view than whatever I say, always contradicting me. So you'll have to work your way through, especially when they are teenagers. Yeah, so I think
Rightly said,
that's
rightly,
the core of it.
rightly said. Thank you, Mr. Debashish Paul. It was indeed, it was wonderful listening to you on your thoughts and the book. It's not just about a human life or a story. It's like much more. It's about voicing for a dignified life for many in the society with special needs. Best wishes from all of us to you for continuing your mission of giving new parents more confidence in dealing with the situation and also giving children with special needs their dignity. Thank you once again. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Debashish Paul on his memoir in the book, I Have Autism and I Like to Play Bad Tennis. Thank you all once again for joining us in this first edition of Navarjito Bukathon. Take care. Goodbye.
Thank you, Sindhu.